Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. Dr. Lopkin, I'm going to feed it out to you. What do you think?
Well, right now there's only one story around, and that's coronavirus. That's affecting everything.
Without any question, and I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. Have you? Rhetorical question.
Nobody has. The last time anything like this happened was the Spanish flu, just prior to the Great Depression.
I really don't know what to say. I think it's, it's a lot worse than you can ever imagine, correct?
Well, no, it's not worse than you can imagine because these things are in clusters. So if you're in the New York area, it's an apocalypse. If you're in California, it's bad, but it's not nearly as bad as it is in New York. If you're in the middle of the country, there are huge areas that haven't even been touched.
Yeah, but okay, that's a good point, Dr. Lopkin, and I don't really know the answer. What is the answer?
Well, I think the answer is segmentation. We have to stop looking at what we can do for the United States as though it's a uniform problem. We have to hit the places where the problem is the greatest. But, as Trump has been saying, he would love to see things start reopening by Easter.
That's ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous. There are parts of the country that it's completely feasible. Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, Iowa, Idaho. These are areas where there has been very little infection.
Okay, but the point is
another 20 days of isolation in these places, you'll have those areas cleared.
Okay, what happens to New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and probably I don't understand. I don't know. I think it's, you got the tales of two cities. You got Trump with we're going to reopen in 3 weeks, and you got Andrew Cuomo that's basically, when you listen to him, you could slash your wrists.
Well, because Andrew Cuomo is governor of New York. That's where the problem is the worst. New York has, at this point, 30,000 infected people. This is the largest area of infection in the country. The second largest is New Jersey. New Jersey has 3,000 infected in the state. That's how much worse it is in New York than anywhere else. It is 10 times worse in New York than the next worst place.
Okay, so what do we do, Lopkin?
Honestly, you need to quarantine New York. Nobody in or out, because that's how this is spreading to the Northeast and to Florida, is from New Yorkers fleeing.
I would agree with that. But how does that happen, though?
Well, honestly, that's got to be done. Andrew Cuomo has to take the lead on it. The federal government has to support him. But right now, what you are seeing is New York is the epicenter, and it's spreading across from there. Almost 90% of the cases in Connecticut can be traced to one New York lawyer who took Metro North from his house in Westport to his office in New York, going through Grand Central Station, which is what actually caused the bulk of these infections. This one guy is patient zero for most of what's gone on in New York and Connecticut.
Okay, and you look at Connecticut. It was 66 last time we did Carnivore Bites. Now, what is it, 200?
I don't know the current number, but I do know you can trace, again, 90% of them to Metro North, which was infected from this one lawyer. I know Westport has the greatest number of infections. That's where this lawyer lives. So, I mean, we know where it's coming from. We have to quarantine. I would say quarantine New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. If you can cut it off at the Massachusetts border, you can probably save the rest of New England from getting very infected. Cut it off in New Jersey or Pennsylvania or south of, and going south, you're going to contain the biggest part of it. The other part is you quarantine California and Washington because those are the other epicenters. Once you do that and you actually keep people from leaving those areas and quarantine them in place, most of the rest of the country can get by with social distancing.
Okay, so how did it happen? How did it happen that New York got where it is? New York is the epicenter. That's the New York and Washington is the two places that it happened. So how did it happen, Lopkin?
Well, Washington got it from somebody coming off of one of the cruise ships. We know that. New York, I don't know how the lawyer was infected, but we do know he's pretty much patient zero for New York. How this spread in New York is simply because take a look at the population density. People live literally on top of each other. Social distancing, wasn't even really possible at the beginning of this, especially when you didn't know if you were infected or not. But take a look. The areas that are infected are those with great population densities.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it's spreading. That's why social distancing is so important, because if you keep people away from each other, if you clean, we know that bleach kills the virus. So clean your houses, clean your desktops, your offices from any viruses that are sitting around.
Dr. Lopkin, I've known you for years, and you've always been very informative. I just don't see how this ends.
But it ends like every other virus ends. I mean, the Spanish flu ultimately ended. It does. The Spanish flu ultimately ends. You also have to remember that, I mean, we've been calling this coronavirus. It's a coronavirus. It's not the coronavirus. The common flu is a coronavirus. The Spanish flu was a coronavirus. SARS and H1N1 were also coronaviruses. They're all in the same family. They're already working on vaccines and treatments. There's been very good results with a malaria drug, chloroquine, that helps people who already have it. So they're working on the vaccines, they're making progress on treatments. It ends when enough people have access to medications that help. And remember, we talk a lot about the fatalities, but the mortality rate right now is 3%.
No,
but
it's about 1.
Now it's dropping, and the more we test, the more that's going to drop. The other thing to remember is all of those people that have been infected but don't show symptoms, that showed symptoms but have been recovering, and that's most of them. Most people who have it, even if they showed symptoms, the bulk of them recovered after 3 or 4 days.
Okay, but if you're older, you're not going to recover.
Well, you can't say you're not going to recover. There are loads of situations where elderly couples, even there was a couple on the news, 91 years old. They were infected with coronavirus. They were hospitalized for it. Now they're doing fine. They're healthy. There is no one set of circumstances that says if you get COVID-19, it's a death sentence. Generally, the one key is respiratory. if you're old and you have respiratory problems, that's going to be difficult. If you are a lifelong smoker, if you're younger and you've been vaping, that
No,
makes
no, no.
this
Wait,
more
wait, wait,
desperate.
wait, wait. The vaping thing is fascinating because they have a whole thing that like younger people in the United States, like our age group, is actually lower than other places because of vaping. I didn't know it was that widespread.
Vaping has been very widespread. That's why the government was looking into it prior to all of this going on.
Now, wait a second.
Um,
We used to be the business buzz many years ago. I believe one prediction is that vaping is finished after this.
oh, it wouldn't surprise me. It was already on the downturn
I
because
know it
of
was absolutely on the downside, but now I think it's like later, dude.
well, I think what you're going to see now, there still will be a vaping industry. It's not
Hmm.
going to resemble what it was. It is
No
going to
way.
be targeted to smokers who are trying to stop smoking. The vaping devices are going to have to be FDA approved. And all of this was in the works already before this hit. So I think once this is all over, that trend will continue. You'll still have vaping companies, but it's going to be marketed as a smoking cessation device. It's going to be approved by the FDA.
Hmm.
So all of the vaping devices are going to have to go through clinical trials, and that it's going to be a much smaller industry.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So where does this all play out? Here's what I think. I'm the doom and gloom guy. I'm just telling you how it is, kid. I think, oh my God, I don't even want to think about this, but I really do believe the economy, oh my God, I think it's going to be kind of finished. And I think if you're in a metropolitan area like New York, places in New Jersey, Fairfield County, I think you're screwed. I think if you're in Iowa, you're pretty much fine. Your comment.
You're going to see a lot of small businesses go out of business in areas where with the greatest um, infection rates. That's going to be a big problem. The overall economy will rebound. We're going to hit bottom hard, but we're also going to bounce back. If we go into an official recession, people are saying, "Oh, it's a recession, it's a
Dr.
recession."
Lopkin, I respect your view,
No,
but
no,
you
you
have
have to
to.
remember, officially a recession is 2 quarters,
Okay, that's good.
not
That's good.
one.
That's good.
So if we go into an official recession, and again, right now, it looks probable that we will be in a recession. However,
Hmm.
it also looks like that recession will only last the 2 quarters. Remember, the definition of a recession is that GDP contracts. Well,
Hmm.
government spending counts towards GDP. All of the estimates are we are going to lose about $1.5 trillion in GDP. Well, up for a vote today that it looks like is going to pass is a
And it did
spending
pass.
bill for two. It just passed?
It, it's going to pass. You're correct.
Yeah. Is a spending bill for $2 trillion. So we're already taking steps to counteract. And once all of this does get back to normal, and it will get back to normal at some point,
Well,
the
like
the
Dr.
economy
Lopkin,
will
I mean,
rebound.
I have to ask you, and I have to ask you on behalf of our listeners, will it get back to normal? I mean, people are scared. You know what? They're scared to death. They're scared to death. If
Yes,
you
they
live
are.
in an apartment in New York City, you're screwed. If you live in, Collinsville, Connecticut, in a house, you're probably okay. It's
Yeah,
all a matter of luck of the draw, dude.
a lot of it is where you live, but also remember, we just said the mortality rate is dropping. People are getting sick, but they are also getting better. One of the insurance companies came out today. They're the first one. All of the insurance companies have said they will cover the cost of the testing 100%, no copay.
Mm-hmm.
One of the insurance companies came out today and said they will cover the cost of treatment, no copay. So you're not going to have the financial burden of the medical bills on top of what's going on with your job. Unemployment benefits are being extended. Small business loans are being extended. And those small business loans, if you don't fire your employees, those loans will be forgiven. You don't even have to pay those back. There are grants available for business. Larger businesses are actually chipping in to help smaller businesses. Google, Facebook have both announced programs. So there's a lot of coming together to make sure the economy doesn't crash.
Well, we were together in the '08 recession, weren't we, Dr. Lopkin?
Yes.
I think this is going to be worse.
It-
I'm trying to be optimistic, but I can't help it.
Well, no, your problem though is you're listening to media reports that are based in New York City. This is a single area. When you look at the country as a whole, it's not nearly as bad as it is in New York City. Now, I'm not going to blow sunshine up anybody's skirt and say New York City is going to, be great, right as rain tomorrow. New York City is going to take months and months just to get back to
How
where
about
they can
Connecticut,
recover.
where we live? Connecticut's screwed.
Connecticut's not going to be so bad. Connecticut, it's a lot of small businesses. If you
No, I'm talking about the infection rate.
You mean the infection rate here is going up, primarily due to our own government stupidity.
Why?
I don't know if you saw the story that broke today, but the state DMV in Wethersfield had people who were tested positive for coronavirus, and they ordered everybody back to work.
Oh, God.
Instead of using social distancing and sending people home, all of these people were ordered back to work. This is the state of Connecticut doing this, not private business. This is the idiots in Hartford that are responsible for this. So, yeah, if we start seeing more infection rates, this is why.
Well, let's reach out to our listeners. How do you take solace in all this? I mean, let's look at the people that are isolated. I mean, Dr. Lopkin, let's help our listeners. How do you get through this? We don't know about the. I mean, you don't know. No one knows about the. How do we advise our listeners to get through this? And there's no sound advice. I get it, but what do you do?
Well, there's a couple of things you can do. If you have been furloughed or if you've been laid off, file for unemployment benefits. The unemployment benefits, the amount has gone up, and the amount of time that you'll be able to get it is being extended. So that will help you if you've been laid off. If you're still working, whether it's working at home or if you're an essential worker still going into a place and you're getting your salary, help other businesses by spending some money. Just this week, I've gone to a couple of drive-throughs, pickups to get food so that local restaurants will, to help them stay in business through this. We need to pitch in and do that. If you've got the financial means to do it, by all means do so. And the worst thing you can do is panic. Stay calm, take a look at your expenses, take a look at your income. If you can cut non-essential expenses, if your income is dropped, do so. If you think you're going to have problems with your mortgage, with your electricity, something like that, reach out to the companies. Eversource has already said they will not turn off anybody's electricity for non payment during this crisis. Banks are also working to refinance to help with mortgages. And we just saw interest rates dropped. So if you can refinance a mortgage at a lower interest rate, do so. But the fact of the matter is, businesses are there to help. Um, Go to your state website. Most state websites have already posted a list of resources that you can turn to help get through this. And most of all, and most importantly, if you don't have to come into contact with others, don't. Stay home, wash your hands, lather your hands for at least 20 seconds before rinsing off the soap, because that's what kills the virus. Keep your house clean. Clorox bleach, wipes, things like that have all been
Okay, how about
shown to kill the
emotional?
virus.
How about the emotional impact? People that might be elderly and alone. There's going to be an uptick in suicides, isn't there?
It's very possible. If you have elderly relatives, call them on a daily basis. Talk to them on the phone. If they're technologically capable of doing this, use Zoom video. This is you can do 45-minute video calls for free. Talk to people, see them. If you have elderly relatives and friends that should not be out, if they need supplies, go help them. Go get those supplies for them, drop them off. Don't go into the house, leave them in front, and let them come out when you're further away. But that's what we have to do.
Dr. Lopkin, I've known you for many years, and you're, in my estimation, quite brilliant. How do you think this ends up? I'm going to leave it with you because I'm not as capable as you are. How does this end up?
How it ends fine. The question is how isn't how it ends, it's when it ends.
Well, I mean, the world's not going to die. I get that.
Right. You know, I think it's going to, the next, I would say, month is going to be brutal. It's going to be very tough, and we need to get through that. After that, it's going to start easing. I think by the end of the summer, we'll be back on our way to recovery. We're not going to be recovered by the end of the summer, but we'll be making steps. How are we going to recover from this? This is actually going to take years because we have to rebuild the economy. We still have to find the drugs for treatment. We still have to find the vaccines. There's very promising work being done on both treatment and vaccines. The FDA has said they will fast track the process to get it out, but these things do take time. Medtronics, which is one of the manufacturers of respirators, the CEO gave an interview saying, they're turning these out as fast as possible. Trump has used the Defense Act to tell other manufacturers to manufacture these, but you can't just retool the factories with the snap of a finger. These things take time. As we
Dr.
go through
Lopkin,
it,
the last thing is politically. Right now, Trump's doing well politically. There's 50% approval. How does Dr. Lopkin, the all-knowing, predict this?
All right, I am going to deny the all-knowing part so that if this ends up being wrong,
Lopkin, I've been with you for years, and you are totally awesome. So you're not the all-knowing, no one is, but you're friggin' good. How does it end up politically?
Honestly, I don't think it's going to have a political effect. I think if you were a Trump supporter, I've already seen people with Trump derangement syndrome going after, oh, this is horrible, Trump's not doing it. By the same token, now, thanks to all of the things the Democrats tried to stick in the stimulus bill, there's a huge.
No. We on this podcast, we need to address that. That was despicable.
It really was trying to change voter registration laws, trying to change environmental emissions.
Clean Air Act.
These have nothing to do with a stimulus bill.
Nancy Pelosi will never be affected by Corona or anything else. She is despicable. That's just a friggin' fact of life.
So because the Democrats tried to cram these into the stimulus bill, you're seeing a big backlash, primarily from the folks that were Trump supporters in the first place. So you've got the diehard Trump supporters who are encouraged by what's going on, what Trump is doing, and aggravated by what the Dems have done. You've got the Trump haters who, no matter what Trump does, they're never going to give him credit. So honestly, when all is said and done, I think politically it's a wash. I don't think it's changed anybody's mind in either direction.
We will see, Dr. Lopkin. This was an amazing edition of Carnivore Bites. Do you agree?
I do. I mean, it's unfortunate that we have to keep talking about this, but we will be on the air twice a week. And as long as this is going on, we will bring people information about it.
Thank you, Dr. Lopkin.
We will see you next week.
Take care.
You've been listening to Carnivore Bites, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch us every week on carnivoreradio.com, exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast Store, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.